Hello, everybody, and welcome to another free movie review, where today I'll be going over Pacific Rim Uprising. This movie comes out 5 years after the previous film, but takes place 10 years later. Now, I find the first movie to be a near perfect movie. It was one of my favorite movies around, just for the content, the writing, the story, and the acting, and also the cinematography that was done. And whereas great the first movie was, this one is good, but far from the greatness that was the original. You have John Boyega playing the son of the marshal from the first film, which not only was there no mention of him in the first film, but there was even no mention of him in the comics that came out with the first film, which the comics did mention that the marshal had a daughter. So they added a son for him, but they might have swept the daughter under the rug. There's no definitive proof that they totally wiped her out from the canon, but there's just no mention of her at all in this. You do get 3 characters returning from the first film with their corresponding actors, and as great as they were in the first movie, I really hate of what has happened to him in this film. The character Mako was just pretty much limited to a cameo, and the characters of Newt and Herman, well, they're pretty much not what you would expect that they would be 10 years after the first film. The fights of the film were all pretty well done. We have a few fights of Jaeger on Jaeger action, and then there's also the big battle at the end of 4 Jaegers against 3 kaiju. The Jaeger battles were alright. Pretty much what I expect for seeing one robot fight another from all the animes I've seen. The last fight in the end, where there's 3 kaiju against 3 Jaegers, was a little hard to follow as it kept switching in between their attacks in battle. Things got a bit more clear once it was the 3 kaiju formed into one giant mega kaiju, and that was up against the 3 Jaegers. I did like the different looks and the abilities of the 3 kaiju at the end. It really did add that no 2 kaiju are the same, and they're always changing to be better. The looks of the Jaeger all feel a bit basic compared to the first. The first, actually, the Jaegers had individual flair one way or the other. Whereas this one, where it isn't Gypsy Avenger, then they just pretty much look like robots that could have been from a American version of Power Rangers before Power Rangers became big. Except for the teeny Jaeger Scrapper, which I feel that Jaeger didn't get enough screen time and was misused in the later part of the movie. It is during the last fight between the 4 Jaegers and 3 kaiju that it was stated before the fight began that all civilians were evacuated to safety shelters, which they do show some civilians going into a shelter as it's going underground, but there's quite a few others that were about to get stepped on or about to get crushed by rubble just as the camera pans away. Kind of makes me wonder how accurate that was of how many people were still trapped in the city, or how could even properly calculate how many people evacuated. The white Jaegers that appear in the movie, I did kind of like the look of, we didn't get much time with them, and you get a whole Evangelion feel from them when things really heat up. It was actually nice to see the inside of the Jaeger besides inside the head, as people were able to walk around on the insides of the arms, legs, and chest, because they're just that big. The first few minutes of this movie did have quite a bit of footage from the first film to help people catch up from what has happened. Seeing Obsidian Fury fight Gypsy Danger for the first time was pretty interesting to see how a Jaeger on Jaeger battle would turn out, since these machines were initially built and designed for Jaeger on Kaiju battle. There's some world building, but not really much to it. Like that people tend to get scraps from Jaegers to build their own Jaegers. So having rogue Jaegers running about is a problem. How people survived in the destroyed cities after Kaiju's attacked and nobody came to clean up. Also, what happened to old Jaegers that were retired or just destroyed, which is one thing I didn't care for, whereas they were just left in a big scrapyard with a few trucks guarding them, so lots of people could still come in and steal parts as needed. You would kind of think that they would salvage those parts for future Jaegers, especially since in this world they believe the kaiju will come back, so they're still preparing, updating their defenses, improving their technology, and doing what they can to make sure that there's a line defense for the day when the enemy will return. Other characters from the first film do get mentioned in Uprising, either through dialogue of current characters or from the wall of the fallen heroes that was featured for a brief moment in this film. The story is a bit under-refined, as it follows John Boyega's character as he is forced to become the trainer of future Jaeger pilots yet once again, while following another character who is a teenager who built her own mini Jaeger, and she is recruited to become a future Jaeger pilot, which is something that she wants to do, but she has to go through her own trials of being in the academy. It really feels like that these are 2 movies that were stuck together. One is sort of trying to be its own mild epic film. The other one is sort of like a Disney Channel TV movie version of the first movie. is the improper balance in between the two, as it's trying to juggle two characters doing separate paths. Whereas the movie would stuck more to one or the other, I felt that this film could have been better. Whereas the first movie had quite a few Jaeger and kaiju appearing on screen sprinkled throughout the whole film at proper points to keep your interest, this movie has long gaps of people talking and preparing for the next fight, which there's not really that many of, besides 3 Jaeger on Jaeger fights and the final battle between Jaegers and kaiju. It was established that there were several other bases, as there were in the first movie, that had Jaegers, but we really don't see any of them, just them mentioned on a board with blinking lights. I do feel that there's probably 1 or 2 little plot holes here and there, like how Mako got some information that will lead the characters to their next destination and fight in this film. Sprinkled throughout this film, and pretty much every other line, is probably a little joke here and there, which a lot of them fall flat and are definitely out of place. The first movie did a great job of showing the high stakes that the characters were in and what would happen to the world if they have failed. This one, no, not really. Not even close. It's just pretty much, oh hey, we'll just go in and we'll train and stuff for the day when it does happen. Oh, it happened. Oh wow, things are a lot worse than we thought it was ever going to be. I didn't see how they would be able to raise the stakes as they did over the first movie, but they did, and very quick. Whereas the first movie ended where cheer and hope as the day was saved, characters surviving, and everything coming to a conclusion. This movie just abruptly ends right after the final battle, only to have a quick 2-minute scene stating that there is an opening for more movies. There are good chance will be more movies. They'll be planning for more movies. This movie is enjoyable. It is not bad, but is far from great. It is a decent sequel, not one I would really want, but there's some good elements in there. With all the teen characters in this film, I would think that kids will probably get more enjoyment out of this than I would compared to the first film. It is great that we were able to get this sequel, and not only that, but having the other kaiju movie, Rampage, just a few months away, shows a good steady stream that we're getting kaiju movies here in the United States with Kong, Skull Island last year, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. It seems that kaiju are going to be here to stay for a while. Now, if only we get some more giant robot movies besides Power Rangers.